Hello, guys, and welcome to Charjr Ryuki's Reviews on Fire. I just turned the mic up just a little bit. Today's episode is about Venom. To be quite honest, this movie was actually pretty good. It really was. It was very entertaining. Some other people will disagree because they went in with high expectations. I went in with no expectations whatsoever. But Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock, Venom, did an extraordinary job. He's the reason why this movie did so well, or is doing so well, I guess in some sort of way, because he actually put effort into making this movie as good as possible. The voice acting for Venom was amazing, was really, really good, and just having Eddie Brock being the reporter that he is, but then also being a bit of a dick, and kind of using his relationship in a way, but yet to further his career, and ruining that, getting him and his girlfriend fired, his fiance fired, and then losing his fiance and that chance of being married, and then going pretty much going downhill after just one interview with Drake. Drake is exactly what Eddie Brock says. He's a visionary, but yet he's absolutely lost his mind. Some of the things that he does you can accept, but then other than that, you can't accept the stuff that he does. He takes homeless people, uses them as guinea pigs, and forcibly pushes to get results. And if he's got like a control, like I gotta have control over everything, which makes him a perfect host for Riot, the symbiote, who also has, you could say he's a bit of a leader. He's a bit of a big guy, boss. But the how things go on was like when Eddie gets bonded with Venom, and he finally meets Venom, and they have this little talk. Venom pretty much tells Eddie exactly what he is. He is a loser. And because of that, he likes him or whatever nonsense, because he's the perfect host for Venom. And it's just some of the things just like jumps at you, or it just, the symbiote just crawls around. It's just very creepy like, and it just gets a hold of you, and then you think it's just gonna just tear you apart, but what it does is just literally just fades away, and it becomes a part of you. And the symbiotes, when bonded, they demand food. If you don't give them food, they will start eating the internal organs of a host. That's basically why Eddie and Venom, achieved symbiosis, is that he managed to, quell Venom's hunger a little bit by pretty much immediately eating. But it resulted in like a fever, like he was sick, and he was a bit, out of it. And it's like he showed, Tom Hardy, as Eddie Brock, showed Eddie's fear. And when he bonded with Venom, having that first meeting with Venom, having that first little chat of seeing it, and the other thing that they did very well is that Venom takes offense to being called a tumor, a parasite, especially a parasite. It is so hilarious by his immediate reaction to being called a parasite, and he pins Eddie to the wall and won't let him move, and until Eddie apologizes. And just having this camaraderie between them made this a little entertaining. Yeah, it did have. There were some things that, like the pacing a little bit was a little bit slow. Um, the what else was it? It's not something that really hurt the movie that much. What I think would have been better for this movie is if it was rated R and it wasn't edited so much to be a PG-13 movie. If they, because it's quite obvious they're gonna make a sequel of this. They have to make a sequel of this. If you're gonna have a Venom versus Carnage and possibly a female Venom that we've seen here as like a bit of an Easter egg here in the Venom movie with Annie and the Venom symbiote, achieving symbiosis, and her and Venom going to save Eddie Brock from Drake and his goons, and just that whole thing is like it's so good. It is so good, and it clearly shows like through Venom when that moment happened during that scene where Eddie gets picked up by the female Venom, and is like, "Hi, Eddie," and then she kisses him. Venom pretty much is like, "Oh, that's just Venom's idea." No, that was Annie's true feelings. Like Annie really does love Eddie. I mean, she really does love him. She obviously still does. And then she kind of starts to understand after seeing what happened with Venom versus the SWAT team versus the cops, and having that little moment, that little of we, together, them working together, and it goes from that to Eddie explaining to Annie Venom and explaining his weaknesses. Fire, sound over 600 hertz is fatal to him. And she uses that in this whole confusion, this whole argument, and in a reaction, like Venom's like, "Oh, we need to get out of here," and he uses Eddie to attack Dan. And Annie reacts by turning the sound up, and Eddie sees this, is like, "Wait, don't do that, and it's already too late. She already turns it up, and it forces Venom to separate himself from Eddie, and they locked him in the room, but then Venom escapes, bonds with the dog to get Annie's attention, and they come to the realization that Eddie is in deep crap here. He's in deep trouble here. And that's when Eddie finds out that Drake is bonded or achieved symbiosis with Riot. And Venom tells Eddie who Riot is, and that he has an arsenal of weapons that he's never seen before. And it's just like, "Oh, I thought we were working together." That moment before all when that crazy stuff happened in the hospital to going towards the end. I mean, I think when it came from that point to the ending, I think that was kind of rushed a little bit, and having that moment where Eddie and like Venom takes over, and Eddie and Venom are still talking, and Eddie's like, "Well, shit. Fuck it, let's go save the world." Because Eddie comes to this realization that Venom, at first, when I first had had their first talk, that Venom wanted to take a ship from Drake's facility and go back to where he came from, to his planet, to bring back more of his symbiote friends to invade Earth. But then things started to change a little bit, and Venom started to really like Earth. He really started to like how the planet looked, and he really enjoyed it. And whether he's seen it through Eddie's eyes or his own, and what made him change to the moment where fuck it, let's save the world from Eddie, was that Venom said, "You're the one who changed me." Just having this from fear of being bonded with an alien symbiote from another planet to not knowing what you're capable of, or what you're now capable of, just this fear of being hunted down and killed, and then already finding out that it's not because of that's not really because of the symbiote Venom that's killing you. You're already in the process of dying. It's just being bonded with Venom kind of made that known, that Eddie was already in the process of dying. Like, he was literally having, issues. And he having a moment between him and Annie to where, he might not live, to see another day, to where he finally apologizes for everything that he's done, to admitting his true feelings to Annie, that he loves her. And let's go straight to the fight scene here, because the fight scene between Venom and Riot, when Drake unveils Riot, everybody runs. He forcibly starts the launch of the next ship. And as Riot starts running down there, but then Riot starts to sense Venom, and Venom makes his appearance, and they start to fight. And Venom is like, you know what, we're gonna stop you from doing what you want to do. I'm not gonna comply with you. You can go F off. I'm gonna protect this planet from you. And Riot's like, you know what, you're gonna die. And then they have this talk, like, in the midst of their fight, that you have a strong host, but not strong enough. But when it comes to the symbiotes, Venom technically is the very first. And every symbiote from him that comes from him is stronger. So if Riot, like Venom admitted that he, on his planet as well, that he was a loser too. So that's another reason why Venom and Eddie got along so well. Maybe not at first, but later on they got along very well, and that's kind of what made this movie work. And the fight scene between Venom and Riot was actually very, very good. They did it well enough so you can see how bad these fights were, where they have they froze these scenes just enough so you could see Venom and Riot tear each other apart to reveal their hosts. And it got to a moment where Riot overpowered Venom and Eddie Brock and merged together with both of them, which made, doubled his size, which proves that Riot was obviously stronger than Venom, because Venom clearly pointed out, like, hey, we're going to have a 0 chance of actually beating Riot. But, Eddie's like, you know what, screw it, let's try. And that moment during the fight between Venom and Riot was like when Riot changed one of his arms from like a mace to dual blades, and that moment where he went to go pierce Venom in the head. Venom dodges it, and it was like right here in front of his face. And Eddie goes, "Holy shit!" It's like, "Yeah, I told you." And like Venom's like, "I told you so." And the moment where they merge, Riot's getting up to go into the ship, and then Annie comes into the building. She runs to the control room, turns up the sound or whatever, the speakers to like over 600 hertz, which causes Venom, Riot, and Eddie and Drake to separate and fall. Now Eddie and Drake were saved from their symbiotes from dying from the fall, obviously, but then it led to a fight between Eddie and Drake, and Eddie won. But Drake was going to be what had seen Riot come towards him was actually on the ledge waiting, and they bonded again to get the upper hand on Eddie. And Venom was already separating, like he wasn't going to make it in time to help Eddie fight both Riot and Drake, which led to Riot basically killing Eddie. And Eddie basically lying there dead, now dead, like he just took his last breath, and here comes Venom. Venom comes in, brings Eddie back, heals him, takes the very blade weapon that Riot used to pierce him from behind to climb and to basically cut a huge hole into the ship, a really huge cut. And that scene where Venom makes his appearance, Riot sees him and is like, "You traitor." Venom goes, "Have a nice life." Jumps off, uses that very weapon to cut through the ship to cause it to explode. And in that process, like, are they both going to die now? Because there's nothing but fire beneath them. What Venom does, Venom basically sacrifices himself to save Eddie. Eddie's like, "Venom, no, don't do it." And Eddie falls in the ocean. And that's where it gets cut off. It gets cut off there. You think, like, later on, you think Venom's no more, and you see Eddie and Annie at Annie's apartment, sitting there talking, just, coming to an agreement that the power really isn't that bad. It's not all bad. And then you hear Venom's voice. And it's like Venom's voice comes in after Eddie asked about the kiss. And Annie goes, "Well, that was your friend's idea." Yeah. And he's like, "Uh-huh. Yeah. It was, I figured that. Yeah. It was his idea." No. He didn't believe it for a second. With that, Venom's voice comes in. So obviously Venom isn't dead. He's still bonded with Eddie. And then Eddie, like, kinda... And, like, she knows how it is when, like, because she, like, before, like, every time when Venom would talk, like, he would, have these actions, like, he's listening to Venom, but then he's also trying to listen to everybody else, so he's trying to do two things at once, which he doesn't really do well. And Annie sees this, and he's like, "Wait a minute, Eddie, is there something you want to tell me?" No, it's fine. It's like, I gotta go. And that's when she realizes, Venom's still here. And Eddie goes on explaining some ground rules for their partnership between him and Venom. And, like, we're going to have some ground rules, okay? You can't go, killing people whenever you want, or eating them whenever you want. And you know, there's good people too in the world. There's quite a bit of good people in the world. You just got to be able to tell the difference. Shut up, phone. And he's like, well, okay, what's the difference between a good guy and a bad guy? What's the difference? And Eddie goes, well, it's quite obvious who would be the bad guy. Like, guns and what we have already experienced. It's quite, obvious that's the bad guy. And then you got people who are the good guys. And while Eddie is explaining this, they walk into the same store that you see him a couple times before, where he goes and see Mrs. Chan. And he walks around the same corner again, where the same crook from before, comes into the store and demands money from her again. And she's like, well, I can't keep doing this. I don't care, blah, blah. And Venom goes, bad guy? Yes, very much bad guy. So when he walks around the corner, Venom takes over, and this moment where Venom becomes like, puts his hand on the guy's shoulders, like, what the are you? And Venom goes, and it's like Venom goes to this whole little spiel that if you ever come into this store and do all of that, and we're gonna bite off your arms or bite off your legs, then you're gonna be a turd rolling down the hill or flying in the wind, and then we're gonna bite off your face or whatever. And Venom goes, or like there's that moment where, what the hell are you? And half of Venom's face goes back, and you see Eddie, and you hear him along with Venom, and goes, we are Venom. Before, he would say, I'm Venom. But then you see them as when they're finally working together, it's like, we are Venom. And he goes, you know what? And just bites off the guy's head. Mrs. Chan is like, like, and he goes, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Chan, I got a parasite. And just walks, see you later, Mrs. Chan, just walks out. Venom immediately, parasite? Apologize right now. No. Apologize. No. Just having that moment at the end was a laugh. And the thing is about this movie too, it might not have got a whole lot on Rotten Potatoes or Tomatoes, but there's a lot of audience or viewer or people who want to see this, and you guys absolutely have to see this. It's actually a really good movie. Screw everybody else's reviews, even though you're watching this one. Screw everybody else's. If you haven't watched it, screw everybody else's reviews. Screw whatever else that you look up at, and go watch it for yourself and share your own opinion. Yeah, I think that they could do a better job. They could have done a little bit better. But when it comes to rated R, with this, adding a lot of blood and gore really doesn't make, the movie any better. But doing it this way, where you don't always see that, but then you have these moments where these appear, like when Venom goes from, you know what, and just having this quick moment where he just comes in and just bites the guy's head off. And when Annie was her, when she was the female Venom, and having that moment where she just, and it just cuts really quickly to her biting the guy's head off, just having this moment where she goes like this, just biting the guy's head off and just throwing the body away. Just having that moment. That's pretty good. I mean, from what I've seen with this movie, it definitely needs to be a rated R. I mean, it really needs to. It really needs to be a rated R. And if they don't want to do it with this one here, that's fine. But when Venom 2 comes out, maybe in a couple years, with Carnage coming out, it has to be rated R. You can't have a scene like that and not have the following movie, Venom 2 Venom versus Carnage, a PG-13 movie. It needs to be rated R. It needs to be rated R. Because Carnage comes from Venom. So Carnage, when it comes to Venom versus Carnage, Carnage is also obviously stronger than Venom. So that's why they're seen as like Batman and the Joker. In a way. You guys get my point. But in the rating that I will give Venom, because I want to point this out too, after the movie was over, the audience, not just myself, actually gave this an applause. Like, I didn't see everybody. I don't know if anyone gave it a standing ovation, which I probably I highly doubt that, but it got an applause and a lot of woos because people really enjoyed this movie. A lot of people enjoyed this movie, and I was one of them. This movie is actually, despite what's believed, it's actually worth watching. Tom Hardy does a very, very good job with this movie. And I can't wait to see him in the next as Venom. So, hashtag we are Venom. Nachos. I give Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom, an 8 out of 10. So, with that, I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.